Jen Mall, and welcome to Nurse Connect. I am an RN and a board-certified nurse coach. I believe that connecting with others is essential to living a happy and fulfilled life, and that sharing our stories not only helps us to heal ourselves, but also helps others by inspiring hope and optimism. I am so grateful to share stories of these incredible nurses on their journey, and I encourage you to find a way to share yours too. Thanks for listening in. Hey everyone, we'll jump onto this week's podcast in just a moment. But real quick, if you're a nurse coach or a leader and are interested in developing a hospital-based nurse coaching and wellness program, then I would love for you to join me in my Facebook group, Hospital-Based Nurse Coaching and Wellness Programs. In this group, we share best practices and resources, as well as trainings to help you develop a successful program, which will decrease turnover and burnout, as well as increase employee satisfaction. Of course, we know this leads to decreased serious safety events and improved patient experience. I have got a free mini course that I can send you to get started on this journey. I will drop the link below, and I hope to see you inside the group. Have a great day. Bye. Hi, everybody. Welcome back to Nurse Connect podcast. I'm Jen Mall. I'm really happy to have Joyce here. Lovely. Thank you for agreeing to be on my podcast. You're my first nurse practitioner, my first professor. It's wonderful to have you.
Nice to be a first. Yeah.
Yeah.
Super excited to be here. I love talking about nurses and nursing and the importance of all that. And, the transition that I think we go through in terms of our practice and what life does to us that brings forth, even more depth in terms of how we practice our profession. So thank you for having me.
Yes, absolutely. I know we have got some good stuff to talk about today, including a cliffhanger that you left me on right before we started talking. I know we're going to get to, but why don't you take us back? How did you get into nursing, and what has your career path been?
So I actually got into nursing. I was 17 years old when I graduated from high school, and I I'd gone to some colleges, and I saw University of San Francisco, and I just said, this is where I want to go to school. And they had a nursing program there, and a lot of things in my life are just like, yeah, I want to do that. I want to go here. And turns out it was a fabulous school. And I was really fortunate that it was a school that they accepted you into the School of Nursing as a freshman, which is fantastic.
Yes.
So you actually go through your sciences and things there. You start clinical in your sophomore year, which was really great. And you finished up, you had a community health certificate that you finished up with. So not really having any nurses in my family, at a very young age, it was weird. There was like this older folks home close to where we lived. And at 12 or 13, I remember going over there and volunteering. And it didn't bother me. I just liked to be around people and, this helping profession. And I was a candy striper and all that. And I just loved it. And so I got into nursing. When I graduated from University of San Francisco, it is a Jesuit college. And with Jesuits, you don't go to school to earn money. You go to school to serve. And one of the things that I thought would be great was I joined VISTA, which is Volunteers in Service to America. And I went up to Yakima, Washington. I worked on the Yakima Indian Reservation, but I did not work with the Yakima Indians. I worked on a migrant and seasonal farm worker clinic. And I was supposed to go up there and be one of the community health nurses because, I just got out of school. I was 21 years old and just got out of school. Well, when I got up there, it turned out I was the community health nurse.
Oh my goodness.
So at 21 and limited. So I remember going up to University of Washington in Seattle and going through their medical school library. And I would just pull out public health journals and I would look through the index, like, what are we supposed to be doing? What are we supposed to be doing? And so I really kind of found my way in that setting, like public healthing, and I understood about WIC. We did children's programs. We did women's health programs. At the clinic, though, there were nurse practitioners. And I was like, wait a second, what what is that? And how do you get to do that? And so they had nurse practitioners and what they called medics.
Mm.
They're called PAs here, but a lot of the University of Washington took a lot of medics that were in the Vietnam War that
Mm.
had a lot of stuff, but no licensing, and brought them through there. So I saw these mid-level
Yeah.
practitioners and I was like, yeah, that's what I want to do, because I loved, even as a community health nurse, I loved the independent decision
Mhm.
making. I love the collaboration with different colleagues and all that. So I came to Sacramento specifically to go to University of California, Davis in their nurse practitioner PA program. So I applied, couldn't get in at first. I needed some other um, clinical experience. So I
Mhm.
started working at Mercy General Hospital. And this is, so I got in there and go, oh, I want to be an ICU nurse. Oh, I want to do that.
I love it.
So I get into the surgical ICU, and absolutely over my head. When we did the first code, I was like a deer in the headlights. And it was really great. There was an older, very seasoned, experienced nurse who took me aside and said, "You are not ready for this.
Oh,
It doesn't mean you can't do this,
yeah.
but you're not ready. So we're going to put you on a nice med surge floor. You're going to do that, and you're going to get some experience." And like, I just cannot even tell you some of the best advice I've gotten from some nursing colleagues. So I did that. And after about 6 or 8 months or whatever, I started floating into medical intensive care. And after a year, I became charge nurse of the shift 3 to 11, and then applied again to get into the NP school and got it to UC Davis in 1979.
Wow,
So
you're a
I was,
pioneer.
yeah, I
Love it.
think I was going to look it up. I think I was the third graduating class from there. I graduated in
Incredible.
81. And so, yeah, after that, the majority, like I said, of my career has been as a family nurse practitioner. And then, I'll talk about an event I went through that kind of changed me. And
Mhm.
I went back and got a master's and then my doctorate, and kind of what I do now. So yeah,
That is
loved,
incredible.
loved my family practice NP. Loved it.
Yeah, and are you still practicing?
So no, a couple of years ago, it's kind of funny. Once I got into doing a lot of research and teaching at Sac State, I couldn't do family practice anymore
Mhm.
because you really have to have
Mhm.
relationships with people.
Yeah,
So I did urgent care.
yeah,
And it was about a couple years ago. It was right before COVID. COVID, I wasn't even on my radar. It's just, I remember, thinking, I think it's time to kind of shut it down, because I was got
yeah.
so many interests in other things too. And it just happened one night. This is the weirdest thing. One night I was at urgent care and I was working with some of my favorite docs, and we really got along. And that night, I just made some really good clinical calls. Like, there was
Mm.
one older woman and they thought she had indigestion. And I said, no, 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 I think
Yeah.
it's a cardiac thing. And so I sent her in, and yes, she got surgery. And I just made some real, and I was driving home that night and I just said,
That's
that's
it.
it.
Yeah.
That,
To
that
end
that's
on a high note. I
that's
love
it.
it.
Yeah, that's it. And I teach at Sac State. I used to teach a lot of the advanced physical assessment and advanced pathophysiology and that kind of stuff. But yeah, so I haven't done clinical in a couple of years. I still have my licenses,
Yeah.
all my DEA number and licenses, all. But yeah, in terms of practice, I haven't done it for a couple of years.
Beautiful. And I mean, I know there's still more to your story and I can't wait to get there, but I'd love to just highlight the diversity of nursing and your career and what an interesting path of just like, let me try this, let's do that, and just seeing kind of where it takes you. And that's just one of the things I absolutely love about nursing.
Oh, you know what? That's such a good insight, because it is one of those things. Very rare do I talk to a nurse who said, yeah, I started in medical intensive care and did 35 years there.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? They all kind of morph around. And You know, I will tell you the thing that I loved the most though was I taught at UC Davis and their NPPA program part-time. So I've done some adjunct faculty things, and I just loved that because
Mhm.
it really, I love teaching, and then I love my clinical.
Yes,
And the teaching really informed me clinically, because if I was telling my
100%.
students to do certain things and to pay attention to certain things, I needed to do that, and vice versa. The clinical really informed my teaching. So I just, I'm just so
Yeah.
lucky to have a career like that.
Oh,
Plus,
amazing.
everybody in the neighborhood, of course, calls you, right?
You're the nurse.
I
Yes.
love, I
Yes. I
love,
get the
I
text. Can you talk? I'm like, I haven't talked to
totally.
you in 2 years. What
But
do
this
you
is one of
need?
my favorite lines. I had one of my neighbors come over and say, and it was in the middle of the night, and she had some stuff, and I was kind of attending to what was going on. I said, "You okay?" And she goes, "I really thank you because, I didn't want to bother my doctor." And you go, "Oh, but you'll bother the nurse practitioner in the neighborhood." But yeah, I'm so glad you did that. I didn't want to bother my doctor.
Yeah, you're welcome.
It was
Yes.
great.
Okay, I can't hold it anymore. Tell me, what was this life-altering experience that you had?
So I was 35 years old. I'm 69 now, but I was 35 years old, and I have no memory of this. I already
Mm,
was a nurse. I was a nurse practitioner. My husband and I had three children. Our son was two, and our daughters were 8 and 9. And
mhm,
I'm super uh physically active. I'm a
mhm.
marathon runner, done
Wow.
a lot of triathloning, done a lot of stuff. And so our daughters were on a swim team, and there was a championship swim meet at Jesuit High School here in
Mhm,
Sacramento. And so it was multi teams that came together. And so I kind of remember going out to dinner on Friday night with people,
mhm,
but that's about all I can remember. And this incident happened on Sunday. So I was told that they were having an adult relay, a fun adult relay before they had the final swim with the kids.
mhm,
So I was told I grabbed my husband and a couple friends and said, "Come on, we're going to swim this and we're going to win this. And I'm going to swim the last leg of the relay because I'm the fastest. I've been training a lot." So we get out there and we swim.
mhm,
And I did finish the last leg of the relay. It finished at the side of the pool that was 13 feet deep.
mhm,
And I don't remember any of this, but I was told the timer said, "Do you need help out?" And I said, "No." And I just sunk to the bottom of the pool. And they my husband realized I wasn't surfacing, so he dove to the bottom of the pool, got me to the side. And luckily, since there were lots of kids, there were lots
yeah.
of parents, and there was an ER doc, cardiac nurse specialist, respiratory doc, or whatever. So I received over 20 minutes of CPR poolside.
Oh my
They
gosh.
landed a helicopter in the football field at Jesuit and life flighted me to UC Davis. My heart stopped again in the helicopter. They got it going. And that's when, I hit Davis, and the life I knew had completely changed. My life really completely changed. And, there was a lot of stuff going on. I was on a respirator for about a week or so, then
Mm,
off, but I actually did physically pretty good because I was in such good shape to begin with.
yeah.
But when I came out, I had significant aphasia, nobody even used the term TBI. Nobody even said that to
Um,
me, but I had significant cognitive delays. Yeah, I was kind of a mess. I was kind of a mess.
wow.
And I remember there was just so much that being on the other side of the equation,
Mm,
being a patient and seeing how people dealt with me and what happened,
yeah.
really formed me when I was able to go back into practice in such a profound way. So, as an example, I remember saying to this one doctor, "Well, when will I run again?" And he was like, "Well, you're never going to run again." And I said, well, wait a second. Well, when will I swim again? Well, you'll
Mm.
never do that. And I remember looking at him and I said, you need to stop doing that.
Yeah.
I am living what I can't do. I'm well aware of my limitations here, but you need to tell me what I can do. You
Mhm.
need to ask me what I want to do. And your job is to get me there. And
Mhm.
little did I know, in the midst of my craziness, whatever, that really was kind of the way I took my practice in so many ways. But I think also just, going through, I'll tell you one story that in terms of nursing that I just, think every nursing theorist
Mhm.
is behind this activity. But I was like I'm super active person. I'm outside, love being outside. And I just remembered, I remember ICU. I don't remember being transitioned from Davis to Sutter,
Mhm.
but I just remember, being in a room and everything had been gone now, all the IVs and everything, and I
Mhm.
was going through some rehab stuff. And I just remember this one nurse came in the room one day, like I get emotional. And she said, what do you want to do today?
Mm.
And I just looked at her and I said, I want to go outside. I just want to go outside. And she said, we're going to do that. And to this day, I remember, I don't know how she did whatever, but she took me outside and there's a bench outside of the old Sutter Memorial.
Mhm.
And we just sat on that bench together. And I remember the sun just hitting my face
Mm.
and being like, and, those are the kinds of things that I just really remember
Yeah.
about people, um, like encouraging and, because I was a mess. I didn't know
Yeah. Your
who
life, it just
I didn't
completely
recognize
different.
my husband at first. They brought him in and asked me who he
Mm.
was. I didn't know. They brought my children in.
Mm.
I knew them. I just didn't know
Mm.
how or what ages they were. I remember coming home and standing in my kitchen and I'd ask my children, where are the dishes? What did I used to cook?
Mhm.
I took my daughters to my closet, tell mommy, what did I wear? What did I
Mm.
used to wear? I mean, it was bad. But also, so it was like a nurse like that. It was like Dr. Bruce Gordon, who was one of the head resuscitators. I saw him a couple months after, and he looked at me and he goes, how are you doing? And I said, Bruce, physically, I'm feeling more strength because I
Yeah.
was just so
Oh,
exhausted
I
all the
can only
time. All I
imagine.
did was sleep. But I said, you know what? I think I have brain damage. I think I have
Mm.
some pretty significant brain damage. And he so just looked at me with this lovely smile and he said, listen, you're an athlete. When you have an athletic injury, you have to rehab it.
Yeah.
You've had a brain injury, you have to rehab your brain.
Yeah.
And as soon as he said that, I was like, oh, you know how these people wanted me to go to speech therapy and so I did it. And then I found a cardiologist who was a runner, and he said, and I said, what kind? He goes, okay, I want to calm down. What we're going to do is we're going to take you over to cardiac rehab. And God bless those nurses at
Yeah.
cardiac rehab who just hung in there and stuff.
Oh,
I just like always giving hope,
yeah.
always letting me take some control of what was going on, all that kind of stuff. And then I became friends with my cardiologist. We used to run together. And then Dan Fields, who is a family practice doc who I'd been in co-practice with for forever, God bless him. He took me back
Mm.
after a while, and he saw every patient with me. And
Wow.
that took a while to kind of, because the other thing I did that I have learned too is when I know people who care about me tell me to do something, I don't question, I just like do it. When the doc said you got to go to cardiac rehab, when this other person said, you got to go to speech therapy. And the other thing I did was I called the people at UC Davis NP program,
Mhm.
and they knew what happened.
Yeah.
They knew, they'd heard about it. And I said, could I just sit in class for a while? Can I just sit and listen? And they said, absolutely.
Wow.
So it was a whole rehab part of it, but it absolutely, I don't know if the word changed the way I did
Mhm.
practice, but it certainly transformed the way I saw patients into a way that I always tell people, the way I started seeing patients is I collaborated with them
Mhm.
in their care. And you could do this within a 15-20 minute visit,
Yes.
but we connected in a very crucial way because I'm saying, I'm not here to tell you what to do. I'm here to ask you what you want to do and how together, what can I tell you to help you do this, whatever. And I got to tell you, changing that way and collaborating and being in a healing,
Mhm.
unique healing presence with people. I just remember I wasn't that fatigued anymore after I could
Wow.
see 25 patients. And I just remember, yeah, you're kind of tired, but not the mental stress fatigue
Yeah.
I had. It was awesome. It was awesome. Yeah.
That's amazing. Wow, what a journey. And how long did it kind of take you to get back to quote
Two
unquote
years.
normal? About
2
2
years. I would say
years.
2 years. I would say
Wow.
it was a process, and I
Yeah.
consistently, I worked very hard on this. I saw a therapist too,
Yeah,
because
good.
I remember, because of the brain damage, there's obviously some stuff that went on with my frontal lobe, so
Yeah.
decision making, and
Yeah.
like I got a really bad speeding ticket, and there was some other stuff, and my husband said, I don't know what's going on with you, but something's going on with you.
Yeah.
And so one of my colleagues said, well, I think you should see for a while therapist because this really, and I remembered saying to this therapist, it's a weird feeling because people would see me in the community
Mhm.
and said, since it happened at such a huge event, people would say, oh, that's the woman, that's the
Mm.
woman, that's who. And I said to him, it's weird. You almost have a little bit of this celebrity status. And he
Yeah.
said, but it came with a huge price tag,
Yeah.
didn't it? And I said, you're right. That's it. And so I would say I can actually kind of remember like a 2 year period, I'd gone back to get my master's because that's
Mhm.
another thing I thought, oh, I know how to really get my brain back. I'll go back to school. And I have to tell you a really cute story around that. But I remembered thinking, yeah, I'm feeling like I was before, but I have to, before I go on, tell you the story about my master's. So I live close to Sac State. And so I thought, well, I'll just go apply there to get my master's. So I go to the nursing program and I go to the front desk, and Nancy Beers, who's the administrative person there, I said, hi, my name is Joyce Michael Flynn. I've had this event. I'm feeling better and I'm working hard, but I'd like to go back to school and I'd like to apply for the master's program. And as I'm saying that, Dr. Robin Nelson, who is a division chair of nursing, just happened to walk out of her office. And she kind of heard what I was saying. And I said, she goes, excuse me, who are you? And I told her, she goes, what happened to you again? And I told her, and she said, I was there that day. And I
Oh my
said,
gosh.
really? She goes, I was there that day. She had a daughter on a other swim team that was there. And she goes, come into my office. And yeah, she got me going. She became my advisor for my master's thesis and became part of my dissertation committee. And she has been with me. She hired me as faculty at Sac State. So it's just
That's
like,
amazing. And so as the power of connection too. Like, you just never know. I mean, gosh, I just reached out on LinkedIn and we got connected. And I love meeting new people, and you just never know who will impact the trajectory of your life and your
Yes.
career, and how those full circle moments.
Yeah. Yeah. It's
Wow.
great. Yeah, it's terrific. Really another like crazy part of that too was, so I, excuse me, I did go back, I got my master's, and, I went back to see patients and loved it. And I did a little bit of adjunct faculty stuff, but I would see patients, or I would read a book, or I'd, see something of people who had gone through horrific things. And not only
Mhm.
did they
Mm.
survive, but they thrived.
Mm.
And not in spite of what happened, but as a direct result. And I said,
Yes.
I want to study that.
Yes.
I want to look at that. And that's what drove me into my doctoral research. And my doctoral research is all about trauma-informed care,
Mm.
but the focus is on building resilience and post-traumatic growth. So when I was going to do, that, and I got my doctorate, and I created a system that guides people to growth and resilience in the aftermath of trauma, called MetaHab.
Mm.
Meta, going above and beyond, habilitation, restoration. So I created this basic word philosophy, then a clinical pathway. And I use it on not only individuals, but that's my original doctoral work was on individuals, but also on my postdoc work. I've looked at secondary and vicarious trauma survivors, which are nurses and whatever.
Mhm.
So I created this program. I work with lots of entities, from people with spinal cord injuries to cancer. I've been doing a lot of work with nurses,
Mhm.
as they, secondary trauma survivors and
Yes.
whatever. So I did some programming and work with nurses at Sutter. And it was nurses in Sutter respiratory ICU.
Yeah.
So I went to go start to do my programming, and it's very fun. And I, have 12 nurses, and we do this
Mhm.
program or whatever. And I was getting there, and one of the nurse managers said, somebody here wants to meet you.
Mm.
And I said, oh, who's that? And they said, Dr. Nate Gordon, or Dr. Nat Gordon. And I went, oh my God, Bruce Gordon, who resuscitated me, that's his son.
Oh
And
my
his
gosh.
son was a doc I worked at the respiratory ICU at Sutter.
Oh, it's incredible.
And so I go, like, oh my gosh. And crazy, my daughter, actually, they knew each other in high school and
Oh,
went to homecoming together.
oh
But
my
also,
gosh.
yeah, but also, so I'm there. And so I see Nat. I hadn't seen him in a while. And, you know, going through tough stuff, it's just this shared experience.
Mhm.
And when I saw him in the hallway, he came to me, and I came, and we just hugged,
Mm.
and he just whispered in my ear, I was there that day, and it's so
Mm.
good to see you. So yeah, crazy.
Wow. Oh my gosh. And in your that this is just a passion area of mine too, and very much an area I'm just starting to peel back layers on and learn about. So I'd love to hear more about when you say you're working with these clinicians and patients. How do you do that? What does that work look like?
So interestingly enough, I basically started to get it out there. I've done a lot of research on it.
Yeah.
I've written 3 books,
Oh wow.
2 on the subject. My first book is based off my dissertation, called "Turning Tragic Turning Turning Trauma into
Yeah.
Triumph," and or excuse me, "Turning Tragedy into Triumph," and it's called "Metahabilitation: A Contemporary Model of Rehabilitation." I taught a neuro class. Interestingly enough, I taught an intro neuro class at Sac State. And so I wrote the book for that.
Cool.
And then I just in 2021 wrote my second book on the subject of um, MetaHab and building resilience and trauma-informed care called Anatomy of a Survivor, building resilience, grit, and growth after trauma. So my research, or my doctoral research, was completed in 2007, or basically between 2005 and 2007. So like you said, I created this word, I created this concept. There are 6 stages to the MetaHab program, but I worked very diligently over the last couple of decades with clinicians and therapists in formulating a way to mechanize this. So I bring this forward, and I have, if people want to look at it, it's very easy to go on my website at drjmf.com. And I do programming, MetaHab programming for different people. And specifically, I've been doing a lot with clinicians. I've done work, like I said, with Sutter, with nurses at the VA, with therapists and other clinicians. With first responders, I just finished a thing with Alpha One. And one of the things that is really, really important, I just want to point this out, and what people are talking about doing, is when we're looking at nurses, it's not only looking at the shortage of nursing care, but what they really want is actionable blueprints, or programming to help transform the culture, in the unit culture, and the clinician well-being. And I even like to go further. I just don't want you to have well-being. I want you to have experienced growth as a result of not of what you went through. So my programming helps people not only learn what these situations did to you, but what they did for you. So as an example, I work with nurse clinicians, and we do what we call MetaHab certification workshops. So I'll work with nurse managers. We have a program. It's usually over 3 days. We do it usually once a week for each day. And that programming, the first day has to do with just looking at trauma-informed care, post-traumatic growth, and looking at MetaHab. The second day is all about science, because I've really gotten into the neurophysiology, the neurobiology of the fear response, compassion, self efficacy with Bandera, really looking at what's happening in your brain. I have a geneticist that talks about the epigenetics and genetics of it. So it's all about the neuroscience and the genetics of that. So you have a good foundation. And then the third day, I bring in colleagues, and it's all about how do you apply this? How do you apply this in your personal life? How do you apply this at your unit level? How do you apply this at the bedside? And we do that, and it's so incredibly powerful. So I get this group of nurses who do that, and what I do is they're certified in this. I am with them for the entire year. So then we meet every month and go through this. And so what I want them to do is we'll do another certification in that organization, but now I'm taking them and they're doing some of the programming. So it moves on. And one other thing that we do is another phase where you might want to use staff. And we have a hybrid online program where we come together for a couple of days in person, and then we do some online. But I take these nurses who have been certified in this content, and they help give feedback and lead these other nurses. So it becomes enculturated into the unit, into the organization. How do we look at these issues? We focus on what you can do, the strengths that you have, what moves you forward. We give people a little time to complain and be negative, but that's time limited. because the focus is, and we build these resources, like we have what we call, like, when I worked with vets, we would use battle buddies. So it'd be like you and me are together, and you would, you would say to me, Dr. Michael Flynn or Joyce, have you had something to eat today?
Yeah.
Are you hydrated? Are you sleeping okay? Like, you're worried for
Checking
me.
on each
I
other.
would do the same for you. And we create these battle buddies
Mhm.
or these battle relationships within the organization. And I just cannot tell you the power behind bringing in that type of resource in the form of a specific program and a very much, here's how to do it.
Yes. Step by step.
Very,
Yeah.
a
Oh, that
practical
sounds incredible.
application. Yeah.
And that is what's needed, right? Because like
Yeah.
it's one thing to, and I'm like about ready to go buy your books because I just love this stuff. It's so fascinating to me. But it's one thing to read about it. It's another thing to know what you should do. But to actually like get in there, like what actionable steps can I take? Having somebody lead and guide you through it, working through it. Like you said, like we all want to complain about what happened to us, but then what are you doing about it to move yourself
Mhm.
forward?
Mhm. Mhm.
And that's incredible.
Mhm.
Amazing.
And one of the things that I bring to people's attention more than anything is an awareness. One of the things I end in each section of my book, it's like I always end with, like, you got this.
Yeah.
And I started saying that because I would have patients or students, and I would come together with them, and I just would say, they're struggling, through challenges and or
Yeah.
even a trauma. And I would say, okay, just for a few minutes, just stop, take a breath, tell me your story. Tell me your story,
Mhm.
kind of thing. And they would go through it, and I would stop, and they would stop, and I'd look at them and I would say, look at me. You got this. Look at what you have achieved in your life. Look at the challenges, the obstacles you've been through. And it's the same thing when I went through my thing.
Mhm.
I had, there was something inside me that was triggered precisely by the trauma, and that built on existing capacity. And so I always tell people, I don't have to tell you anything. I just need to remind you and challenge you to look at, what have you done before that's worked?
Mhm.
What do you
Mhm.
like to do? What brought you happiness? Are you doing that?
Yeah.
Like Maslow's hierarchy of needs, let's go through the basics, just the basics. Are you eating? Are you sleeping? Are you socializing? Are you
Yeah.
doing? And you just break it down to these little bits of people, and you just look at them, go, see, I didn't teach you anything. You already had it. I always love to use the metaphor of the Wizard of Oz and Dorothy and her sequin shoes. At the end of the story, he said, those shoes were always there. It wasn't until you meaningfully and
Mhm.
purposefully engaged in this challenge, adversity, even trauma, that you really thought,
Mm.
oh my gosh, look at what this brought forward. Look at what I know now. And
Yeah.
I would never know this
Yeah.
had I not gone through that.
Yeah. And I think I've really grown to appreciate my own personal trauma and burnout. And that is
Yeah.
a beautiful place to be because it sucks. It sucks when you're going through it and when you're angry and you're going through those stages of grief for sure.
Mhm.
And when you can finally get through the other side and you go, that sucked, but I wouldn't be where I am today without it. I wouldn't be who I am today without it. And for that, I'm grateful. Um, and that is a beautiful place to be. It just, it's hard to get there.
And, there's, one of the things that we're doing right now that's really important is just, talking to, colleagues, and that can listen. And I just want to be really honest. I appreciate what the death, dying thing coming back did for me, but I don't want to do that
Yeah.
anymore. I don't want to go back there. It's not like, oh,
No.
I appreciate it, but I think that's a really important thing to get to
Yes.
people that, and the other thing too is that, again, I created a course at Sac State called Traumatology, an Introduction to Post-Traumatic Growth.
Wow.
And I'm working on a graduate version of that. But one of the things my students keep reminding me of, and they see it as they go through, they're recognizing this is a process.
Yes.
And there are stages to MetaHab too. And like the first stage is like, you just got to go through the bad stuff. And I would say to people, I wish I could take this grief away. I wish I could take this depression away, but I cannot. Unfortunately, it is a part of the process, but I will not leave you there. We will come and get you because we need to move on.
Yeah.
But you are not crazy. There's not a psychiatric disorder. Grief for a life that's lost and been
Yes.
changed, going through depression is an expected, I don't even use the word normal, is an expected part of the healing growth process.
Yeah. Yeah. I read a book on resiliency recently, and one of the things I appreciated that she shared, and this has kind of changed how I speak about with nurses around the pandemic. I think we just thought things would just go back to normal, whatever the new normal is, right? And when it hasn't, and we are finding ourselves in this place where we are grieving our life that was before, and we've gone through all of this trauma. I wasn't at the bedside, but I had my own challenges during the pandemic. And I think what I appreciated that she said was that, resiliency isn't going back to the way things were before. It is taking what happened and going forward. And so what learning, developing what your new normal is. What are you growing from the situation? And she had a lot of great things to say. And I'm blanking on the name of the book, of course. But oh my God, it's right there. The 5 something of highly resilient people.
Oh yeah, the 5 practices or 5 habits of highly resilient.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, great book. And but that's one of the points about resiliency that I mentioned with nurses. That it's like, I'm not expecting you to go back to the way things were before. It's never going to be like that again. So what is your new normal? What does that look like for you now?
But look at it this way too. Yeah, I actually don't use the word new normal. I go, this is the transition. You're transforming. You've
Mm,
evolved.
I like that.
It's an evolution, and
Yeah.
we only do that when our systems are pushed up against. And I say to people, they go, well, when am I going to get over this? And I said,
Mm,
let's be honest. There is no getting over this.
yeah.
There is a way that you find some meaning in your suffering, and you find a way to use this experience to build on your capacities,
Yeah.
build your resilience, and over time grow and evolve as a result of that. Like my student said in class, I said, at the end of the semester, I don't expect you. There's no, you should have evolved. It's like Oscar Wilde saying to his friends, sorry, I didn't recognize you. I've changed.
Mm,
And we have these amazing spiritual, intellectual, emotional, cardiovascular, orthopedic, all these systems. And those systems are geared not only for survival, but to thrive. And the only way they can do that if they are pushed up against. They don't sit there in a vacuum thinking, oh, you know what? I think I should make my bones denser. Because no, it's when you run
yes.
and your musculoskeletal system goes, wow, this is a lot of work. I
Yeah.
better do something about this. I'm going to get stronger. Your immune system, when you get that little bit of, virus or, the vaccine or whatever, and the immune system goes, what's that? that? And goes, okay,
Yes.
all right, I get it. Next time I see it, I'm on it. But
Yeah.
your cardiovascular, everything. So when we look at COVID, and as I always like to remember people, that this is not new. Humans have gone through this consistently.
Yeah.
Every century we've had this. We just hit it when it was. And not that you want to go back,
Of course not.
not that you even embrace, but becoming aware again of not only what that situation did to you, but what it did for you.
Yes. Oh, wonderful. This has been such a beautiful conversation. I appreciate you sharing your story and your journey and the wonderful work you're doing. And I'm gonna go dive headfirst into it because
Oh, yeah,
I just it's stuff so fascinating to me. And I hope we stay connected because this is just
oh,
so
we
great.
will, we will.
Yeah.
It's awesome.
Yeah.
Um,
Well,
may I just let people know how to get in touch with
please. That
you
was
if
my
they
next
want
thought.
to? Okay, good. So again, very easy, just Dr. Joyce Michael Flynn. So drjmf.com is my website. My Instagram is dr.jmf. And my email address, very easy to get a hold of me, is just jmf at METAHAB, metahab.com. And I really love working with individuals and organizations and clinicians. So if I can be of service to any or all, please feel free to contact me. So
I love
love
it.
it.
And we'll be sure to put all that down in the show notes too. And I'll grab
Thank you.
your book titles to make sure we get those in there too, because I think this just
Awesome.
you're a wonderful resource. And I'm grateful to you for coming on today and sharing, because I think the more we can talk about this incredible work and our own stories and journeys, I think the more others can see a little bit of themselves in those stories, and hopefully a little bit of hope too on their own journey.
Lovely. Thank
Yeah.
you so much. It's
Yeah.
an honor.
Thank you, everybody. We'll talk to you next time. Bye.
Okay.